I wish to congratulate first our library department headed by Chief Librarian Ms. Rona Tabuada for organizing the activities, contests, and the program today as our participation in the 87th National Book Week with the theme Outcomes, Outreach, Outstanding, Libraries Beyond Boundaries. To all administrative and academic officials here present, our dear faculty members, staff, and students, good afternoon. Although I do not remember everything, I do remember quite vividly some events in my childhood related to languages, books, and the library. As I often share whenever I speak before an RMC audience, I spent my earliest academic years here at RMC, having started by schooling here as a kindergarten pupil in 1971 in the afternoon sessions. RMC back then was still on Magallanes Street, now Antonio Pichon Senior Street. My teacher back then was Miss Nenita Evangelista, now Nenita Navales. I would say she has been one of the greatest influences in my life whenever it comes to my love for languages, the English language in particular. She taught us how to pronounce the letters of the alphabet, the vowels, the consonants, the syllables properly. She was quite strict, but I think my classmates and I really learned well. When I was in kindergarten, my mother owned a dress shop, the Sampaguita dress shop, close by on Anda Street, where I did not have to cross the street whenever I went to school. My mother never accompanied me to my classroom, nor did I want her to. It was enough that I saw her watching me walk to school. I would take a quick glance back to check if she was still watching me before I make a turn to the right, and seeing she was still there without fail, I would now go to my classroom. And I forget about her, and I immersed myself in the joys of being a kindergarten pupil. Happy feelings still linger with me until today, whenever I recall my kindergarten days. As soon as class was over, I would hurry back to my mom's dress shop, then go to a neighboring tailoring shop where, just by their sidewalk, I would rent comics. That would be roughly equivalent to today's manga. That was really my first exposure to literature, Filipino culture, including Filipino mythology. In comics, you either have short stories where you know the entire story in one sitting, or you can have a series just like today's TV series, where you have to wait for another week for the next comics to arrive from Manila. And they were all in Tagalog. So I learned my Tagalog and English outside of our home. My parents are from Bohol. We spoke only Bisaya at home, never English or Tagalog. All my English and Tagalog I learned from school, books, comics included, and from Sesame Street. My mother was just renting the space for her dress shop. The owners were pure Tagalog speakers, and so I heard from them how Tagalog was spoken and pronounced. I assimilated Tagalog in my system quite quickly. And they also owned a black and white TV set, and they were kind enough to let me watch Sesame Street and Gigantor, my favorite cartoon at the time. My family did not own a TV set until I was first year high school. I was quite academically gifted during my elementary days. I was a consistent first honor student. I'm sharing this not to brag, but to honor the process that I went through and the people with me during that process. My sense of loyalty to RMC also comes from this, that my elementary education here was free due to my academic achievements. Besides the excellence of my elementary teachers, I had plenty of support from my parents. At the beginning of each school year, as we students would copy from the blackboard all the requirements from notebooks to folders to crayons to colored papers to rules and of course to rulers and of course the books. My father is dead now, but today I would like to honor him by thanking him for making sure that within 1 week, when he got the list of my requirements, including the books, all the books were purchased within 1 week. He would do everything and anything in order to get those for me. There was one book not on the list that he bought that I would treasure forever. It's lost now, but the title of the book is Children Around the World. It was my first exposure to international cultures, about how children in other parts of the world lived. Our neighbor had the same book, but in Tagalog, Ang Mga Bata sa Palibot ng Daigdig. I borrowed it and devoured it too. I remember that we had schedules to go to the library and read there, and we had to be super quiet because the librarians were very strict. But I enjoyed it, reading all kinds of stuff. But reading in the classroom using the SRA was one of my favorites. I don't even remember what SRA means now, but you read at your own pace, and you progress from color to color with increasing degree of difficulty. That was a lot of fun. But I had also my first reading glasses at grade 5 because I loved reading my textbooks and the newspapers. Our teachers required us to make a scrapbook from newspapers. We had to have pictures of the leaders of different nations. We had to memorize the capital cities. At some point, I even named our dogs Sadat and Begin in honor of the leaders of Egypt, Anwar Sadat, and Israel, Menachem Begin, who met with US President Jimmy Carter in Camp David for a peace pact. We also had to have pictures of the different cabinet secretaries and senators and department heads. We had to make cutouts of the different tourist spots around the Philippines and the world. Sometimes we just had to buy postcards from bookstores because we could not find them in newspapers and magazines. I also have many things to say about my relationship with books and the library during high school. But one of the most enduring things I encountered in high school was enjoying very much Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, A Psalm of Life, which was part of our third-year high school English textbook. Our teacher at the time was the late Mr. Baligi Galima, who was also our journalism class teacher. I love the poem to this day. In our Filipino subject, we had to read No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo by Jose Rizal, of course, and we had to have group reporting. In my entire life before college, I had never read a novel. Some of my classmates, my high school classmates, were reading the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew series. Not me. I was with my textbooks and comics and TV. But college changed everything. Our English teacher required us to read novels, and we had to make book reports. My very first novel was Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Identity. Many of you might be familiar with that title because of the movie adaptation. I had also read The Bourne Supremacy, The Matarisi Circle, and several others. And of course, I went on to other authors and other genre. At the time, I didn't really know C.S. Lewis, but unbeknownst to me, I had read one of his books in the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. It was so captivating. And it was only after watching the movie that I realized, hey, I had read the book. I never read the other 6 books of the Chronicles of Narnia, although I had watched the movie, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Professional life had quite diverted my reading materials. An example is my purchase of plenty of books by John C. Maxwell, the first among the many being his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And I also went on to other authors in management and in leadership. Then J.K. Rowling happened and the Harry Potter series was born. I have read all 7 books and read all the 8 movies and have watched rather all the 8 movies. And mind you, I have read all the books at least 2 times. Just like the other excellent novels I picked up before, you lose sleep because you could not put it down. They were really page turners. And this is pretty much like our TV series on Netflix today. I have pretty much transitioned from physical books to digital books. Although I still have a lot of physical books that I haven't read. But I also have an entire set of Harry Potter in PDF form. I have a whole slew of books in digital form. My computer is a library. And because of the internet, sometimes, well, I do not feel the need to go to a physical library anymore. Because either a copy of a title is available online for free, or one is available for purchase online. The landscape of today has changed, and even the type of books has changed, from printed on paper to digitally printed. Today, there are so many printed books that are read word for word, sometimes by their very own authors. And so you have audiobooks. You can listen to the book, a concept that is quite strange, as it is fascinating. You can listen to the book while you are cleaning the house, driving the car, eating, or when you're going to sleep, multitasking. The Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education still require the existence of a physical school library, and also, of course, our librarians. But transitioning to e-libraries has made many schools, including RMC, continue to provide library services to our students during the time of the pandemic. But I still wish to see that our libraries become places where students actually go to during vacant hours to read, either for academic pursuit or for pleasure. Our nonfiction and fiction sections should still be strong. But it is to inspire our students to love reading, to look forward to reading, to enjoy reading, that might be a real challenge to our faculty and librarians today. When I say reading, I also mean listening to audiobooks. With our students' tendency to have a short attention span, spending time on reading might be really difficult. We have TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and others as competition today with regard to time spent on the internet. My childhood and the way I related to books when I was growing up may be different from yours, and certainly different from the world of generation X, Y, and Z. But one thing still remains. The contents of the books, whether they are printed on paper or printed digitally or converted into audio or visual format, they will continue to influence the lives of our students. Although today's digital natives have access to the internet on their own, teachers and parents can still influence them on the type of materials that they access, that they read, that they watch. We hope that our parents and teachers today and our libraries today will continue to provide the support and avenue through which our present generation will consume materials that are for the benefit of their own growth and the growth of the nations. I realize that I may be quite rambling, but if there is anything that you picked up that might be helpful to you in this short speech, I hope you make it grow. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.